January 15, 2023, the New York Giants take on the Minnesota Vikings in a wild card matchup. The Giants coming in as heavy underdogs, coming in as afterthoughts, visiting the Minnesota Vikings, go into their house. Daniel Jones puts up over 300 yards passing, over 70 yards rushing. Saquon Barkley scores 2 touchdowns. Giants win their first playoff game in years, beating the Minnesota Vikings, and everything looks all bright. But what if I told you this started the downfall for the New York Giants? The Giants went into that season before taking on the Vikings in that playoff game as a rebuilding team. They weren't expected to do much. They were coming off of a year that they underperformed, had to fire their coach, had to go hire Brian Daboll, got to go hire Joe Schoen. And the Giants were looking to retool. With them being a rebuilding team and the lack of talent that they had, they ended up making some things shake, and they won a lot of games that year. They went on to win 9 games in the regular season before going into the playoffs. And with the lack of talent, they were still able to make things shake with guys coming from undrafted, guys coming from practice squads. All these players that you would think are afterthoughts on other teams were making a difference for this New York Giants team. Wayne Martindale, Mike Kafka, Brian Daboll looked like really good coaches. Coaching players that ultimately didn't work on other teams and had no shot at playing a game again ended up coming to the Giants and making a difference. Daniel Jones had his best year, maybe not statistically, but in terms of being an all-around quarterback, a game-managing quarterback, Daniel Jones was able to do so with a lack of talent around him, throwing at guys like Richie James, Darius Slayton, and you name it. Throwing at guys that are not household names, are not top receivers in this league, and somehow, some way, they won games. Saquon Barkley had a monster year after everyone were doubting him after he had that ACL injury, and he looked terrible the year after the ACL injury. He came back and asserted his dominance and showed why he's still a top back in this league. Everything was good. They go into that playoff game, they end up winning a game, and as you know, the Giants, being the Giants franchise, all you want to do is get into the playoffs. Once you get in, if you win, you keep rolling, and if you're the hottest team, that's the way that you end up winning a Super Bowl. And the Giants felt like they could have done so, and the fandom even thought they could have done so. But ever since that game, everything spiraled downwards. And even when we thought we had some highs coming soon, we were soon to learn that everything was going to be crashing down and burning. And where you see the Giants today is a direct result of everything that happened after that playoff game. If you didn't know, they went on to lose against the Eagles. They got demolished in that game, had no shot. But there was a lot of optimism from the front office and also from the fandom saying, if you add a little bit more talent, this team could probably make a run at the Super Bowl. Everyone thought so. And heading into that year, they already turned down the option to take Daniel Jones at the current rate that he was going to be at, because why would you? Why were you going to give another year to this quarterback that clearly hasn't shown that he's your franchise guy up until that point? After that playoff game, the Giants were kind of held there and they said, hey, we have to sign this guy. We have to give him his money. Daniel Jones ended up signing a monster contract. And at the time, it seemed like one of the highest contracts in the league. Now he's sitting around 12th or 13th in salary compared to other quarterbacks. But as you know, Daniel Jones has not lived up to the money, for sure. Heading into that season as well, they went out and they go trade for Darren Waller. They went out and they go trade for Isaiah Simmons. While not giving up extremely high touted picks, at the same time, they made moves because they just felt like if you added a little piece here and there, this Giants team should be at the top of the league and even at the top of the NFC possibly, after you saw what they were able to do with lesser talent. You go out and you draft a Jalen Hyatt. You go out and you sign a Paris Campbell. This team seemed like they were adding tools to really make a run. And if you can argue, after that first season, it was a rebuilding year. They didn't expect to do anything that year, but it showed that the coaches can coach these players that might not be as talented as others. So if you give them a little more talent, this team should go out there and win. Well, guess what? That got brutally interrupted week 1. Training camp vibes were good. OTAs were good. Everything was shaping out well. Saquon Barkley didn't get his money, but he still said that I don't want to deal with none of the drama. I want to show up and put everything aside and try to go forward with the team. Week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys. They match up with the Cowboys. Me as a Giants fan, other Giants fans felt like, hey, the Giants closed the gap on the Cowboys. They went out and they fixed their defensive line, adding more run-stuffing defensive linemen. They went out and they added wide receivers. This team is going to be better. This team closed the gap on Dallas, and this is the time to upset them week 1. That got completely interrupted. Ever since the Cowboys lined up on a field goal block against the Giants, and they ended up blocking that kick, the whole season spiraled downward. As we know, it was a rainy matchup, and the Giants just seemed overmatched beyond the weather and beyond a block kick, but it just felt like the Giants haven't been the same since. They were driving down on that first drive, and ever since that, everything has spiraled downward. At the time of this recording, the Giants are the worst offensive team in the league by a wide margin. Their points per game is sitting around 11 points per game, and the closest one is around 15 in the Patriots. The Giants are struggling. And what we thought they were going to excel at, what we thought they were going to take a next step on, they just haven't. Daniel Jones looks like a mediocre quarterback, and now he sits with the ACL injury that he's not going to come back. He's not going to come back this year, and who knows if he's going to be our quarterback next year. You got Saquon Barkley playing behind the worst offensive line in the league by far. No wide receiver is making a difference made, and you could argue maybe it's the quarterback's fault. Jalen Hyatt should have a lot more targets than he has. Darren Waller is already hurt. We know Darren Waller's story heading into the season. We know how he's been with the Raiders. It is nothing new for him to be injured. There's a lot of things that the Giants were hinging on to be competitive, to take that next step. Somehow, some way, the Giants sit with the number 2 overall pick at this moment. The Giants are full on in tank mode. After heading into the season thinking that they can make a run in the Super Bowl, their Super Bowl is now set to be the NFL draft. Here we are waiting months after the season just to see if this Giants team is going to make the right pick and take a quarterback. At the time of this recording, Caleb Williams and Drake May are the top 2 quarterbacks heading into this class, and the Giants seem like they might have their fair pick at one of them if they continue to lose out. Now, what's going to happen from here? Are the Giants going to full on take on the tank mode? Are they going to continue to start Tommy DeVito? Is Tyrod Taylor going to come back and win us a game? This defense has shown that they spiraled out completely as well. Are they going to go out and win us a game? Every win could possibly be costly heading into this NFL draft, because as we know, the Giants have no chance of the playoffs, no chance of the Super Bowl, so why not just full on head steam towards our Super Bowl in the NFL draft? And when the NFL draft comes, and if it is a decision to be made to draft our quarterback, we're going to remember the Giants signed Daniel Jones to be their franchise guy, and after 1 year, they're stepping away from him. The Giants made costly moves and made moves to try to get this team to be competitive and possibly go on a Super Bowl run. But the first thing we're going to think back on is that Giants and Vikings matchup, where everything felt good, everything felt fine, and it felt like the Giants reestablished themselves in the state of New York and in the NFL. But yet again, here we are, completely established in the wrong way. You guys let me know what you guys think on that, man. Comment down below your thoughts, like up the video, and if you like more content like this, you'll definitely be sure to catch some soon. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Make sure you subscribe to the Juice.